When taking refuge in the apocalypse with my childhood friend, a barrage of romantic drama comments descended from the sky. Oh my god, the extreme cold and hailstorm apocalypse is about to arrive. Can these two villainous scumbags just die already? Don't get in the way of me watching the sweet daily life of the main couple. Get lost. Stay away from our precious female lead's shelter that can infinitely refresh supplies. I laughed, as the barrage wished. I left the shelter early with my childhood friend. The barrage erupted in cheers, celebrating that the male and female leads were about to start a happy life together with abundant supplies, but they didn't know that the ability to infinitely refresh supplies didn't belong to this shelter. It was the special ability of me and my childhood friend. The cold wind, mixed with hail, pounded against the iron door of the shelter. I forced my frozen hands to finally twist open the rust-covered handle. Cheng Yan's body pressed against my shoulder, and I could almost hear his faint breathing. Bullet comments swarmed across my vision like a restless horde of ants. No entry. Ah, this is Yeya's Golden Finger Sanctuary. Who let you in? Taking advantage of when Yeya and Jingchuan went out to gather supplies. Sneaking in like this is so shameless. It's alright, everyone, let's just wait and watch the show. In the apocalypse, strength is everything. When Jingchuan, the strongest fighter in the apocalypse, arrives, he'll definitely kick them out. The comments have already started discussing how miserably Cheng Yan and I will die. I didn't even bother to give him a glance, skillfully taking out the medicine and bandages from my bag to treat Cheng Yan's wound. Only when his breathing gradually steadied did I let out a long sigh of relief and lean against the wall. The hail pounded against the shelter's outer walls with a dull thud, like a death knell urging doom. 3 months had passed since the apocalypse arrived, and the world had long been beyond recognition. Living on with my childhood friend Cheng Yan is my only wish now. As for these bullet comments flying all over the screen, TSK, it seems my mental illness has gotten worse. The dagger in my hand unconsciously spun in a circle, its cold gleam vanishing in an instant before being tucked back into my sleeve. I wiped my face and had to hurry out to find some more medicine. I didn't want to scare Cheng Yan. Suddenly, there was a knocking sound at the main door. Is anyone there? I saw you go in. Could you let us stay for a while? It was a pitiful-sounding female voice. Our little Yeya is so polite and well-behaved. I just want to give her lots of kisses. No wonder she's the lucky koi queen protagonist. Even a random shelter she finds turns into an ability-refreshing spot. Let me rub off some of that luck. The person outside the door was still knocking persistently. I frowned in the direction of the door, trying hard to figure out whether this was reality or just my hallucination. The barrage has exploded. The screen is filled with accusations against me. What is this lady doing? Hurry up and open the door for Yeya. Woo-woo my baby. Their little face is all red from the cold. Can I just say, as expected of a villain. Even the sidekick doesn't change their character of not saving someone in danger. I pinched my palm. Alright, it seems it's not an illusion. After all, my illusions don't have such bizarre logic. I paid no attention to the person outside, leaning against the wall. I found it quite amusing to watch these barrage comments getting all worked up just because I didn't open the door for the so-called female lead. This is way more interesting than my daily hallucinations of being chased by monsters. Suddenly, the knocking stopped, and the barrage comments seemed to have hit the pause button, no longer hurling insults. Then came a new wave of frenzy. Ha ha ha, this is going to be entertaining. Jing Shin is here. This is the kind of ruthless person who can crush an A-level opponent barehanded for Yeya's sake. These two troublemakers are done for. Anyone starting a betting pool? I bet these two losers won't last 3 minutes against Jing Shin, knocking and disturbing me. Fine. Breaking Cheng Yan's door is not an option. With a bang, I yanked the security door open and gave the two people outside a cold, hard stare. No staying over. This is my friend's house, the kind with a property certificate, you know. Outside, a hailstorm was raging, and a girl in a silver radiation suit stared at me in shock. Her large eyes instantly welled up with tears. Sorry, I didn't know this was your home. Excuse us. We'll leave now, she stumbled as she turned around. Tears falling and quickly freezing into icy specks in the cold wind, the barrage of comments instantly erupted into a chorus of heartbroken cries. So it's your house, huh? No need to be so aggressive. Does having money make you so great? What's the use of having money in the apocalypse? You heartless rich people will get your comeuppance sooner or later. I looked at these overly compassionate comments and couldn't help but sneer. How are these people crazier than me, a mentally ill person? Gu Nian, Qing Yan's weak voice came from behind. My heart tightened, and I turned around to close the door. A suffocating sense of oppression, accompanied by a chill, rushed toward me. Before I could react, the man had already tightly gripped my throat. I was forced to lift my head, meeting a pair of eyes filled with murderous intent. Indeed, this was a top-tier superhuman I couldn't afford to provoke. Lack of oxygen made my vision gradually blur, and a buzzing sound filled my ears. The man's indifferent gaze fixed on me, his eyes tinged with crimson. As he slowly uttered 2 words, apologize, the girl sobbed on the side, pretending to dissuade him. Forget it, Jing, she probably didn't mean it, let her go. The man gently rubbed the top of her head with his other hand, his gaze tender. No, yeah, I won't allow anyone to bully you. Bai Yu looked back at him with tears in her eyes. Jing, you're so good to me. The barrage went wild with screams of shipping the couple. And the flood of hearts made me want to vomit. No one noticed that my face had turned blue and I was starting to roll my eyes, on the verge of losing consciousness from suffocation. In their eyes, my life is as worthless as an ant's. The man withdrew his gaze, his voice cold as ice. I'll say it one more time, apologize. I spat out a mouthful of blood and forced 2 words from my throat. Dream on, don't know what's good for you. The man's grip suddenly tightened, and I could clearly hear the creaking sound from my own windpipe. I glared at him with equally bloodshot eyes, quietly reaching for the small knife hidden in my sleeve to strike him dead with one blow. Qing Yan struggled to get up from the ground, holding a black box in his hand, his tone icy cold. Stop, no matter who you are. Let her go immediately, otherwise, I will activate the shelter's radiation source. We'll all perish together. My originally poised hand went limp, and I looked at Qing Yan pitifully. The man narrowed his eyes and abruptly threw me into the shelter. Hopefully, next time we meet, you'll have learned some manners. I slammed hard against the wall, grimacing in pain. I looked up, glaring fiercely at the 2 figures by the door, a cold, sinister smile curling at the corner of my mouth. Good. What kind of apocalypse novel protagonists are you 2? I'll remember you. Bai Yu instinctively hid behind Jing Chuan when she met my gaze, pouting as if about to cry again. Jing Chuan stood in front of her, exuding a chilling aura. Qing Yan comfortingly tightened his grip on my hand, his voice calm yet firm. Now, please leave my home. The hail raged on, turning the world outside the shelter into a monochrome gray. After 3 months of radiation exposure, only this shelter, modified by Qing Yan and me, remains intact. We reinforced it with a specialized protective layer, making it an indestructible fortress in this post-apocalyptic world. Bai Yu pursed her lips, her eyes looking pitiful as she took 2 steps forward. Sister, the hailstorm outside is terrifying. Could you take us in for a few days? As she spoke, she pulled a box of compressed nutrient bars and 2 tubes of purified water from the pocket of her protective suit. We'll pay the rent. These are my most precious supplies. Consider them the payment for the first day's stay. In the apocalypse, who would care about these meager supplies that are better than nothing? The barrage was filled with praise, saying she was sensible and knew the rules. I barely held back the urge to roll my eyes. After all, this is Qing Yan's home, and I can't make decisions for him. Qing Yan gave a faint smile and was about to refuse. Sorry. Jing Chuan suddenly stepped forward, his eyes as dark and gloomy as condensed ink. He leaned in and whispered a few words into Qing Yan's ear. Qing Yan's expression instantly froze. A moment later, he actually agreed to let the 2 stay for a few days and even assigned them a lounge on the first floor of the shelter. The barrage exploded with excitement, and CP fans screamed wildly. Holy crap, what is Jing Shen doing? The villain's eyes are glued. I'm actually starting to ship this pair, oh my. Jing Shen is completely devoted to Yaya. He's sacrificing his charm to protect her. I'm totally into this kind of devoted man. Woo-woo, he's so good at this. He even used seduction for Yaya's sake. Exactly. Anyway, Gun Yan and Qing Yan are just cannon fodder destined to die. When the extreme cold and hailstorm come, they'll freeze to death outside. That's right. Don't just start shipping any 2 guys you see earlier. Respect the official pairing. Exactly. This shelter that can continuously produce supplies is our Yaya's first opportunity. No one noticed the change in Bayu's expression in the corner. In those faint innocent eyes, naked jealousy and greed emerged, her nails almost digging into her palms. Noticing my gaze, she immediately reverted to that panicked demeanor, hiding behind Jingchuan and trembling. I squinted my eyes. This so-called lucky coy innocent female lead is indeed not as simple and harmless as the comments claimed. Could it be that they read a pirated version of the comic? Otherwise, how could they not even know that the ability to randomly generate supplies is actually mine? And to be honest, this ability is actually quite useless. It only refreshes 2 random supplies per day. Hardly an overpowering golden finger. I helped Sheng Yan up to the 2nd floor, carrying the supplies I had just collected on my back. Although he was weak, he still instinctively helped me bear most of the weight. As we move further away from the male and female leads, the barrage of comments before our eyes gradually fades. Clearly, this observation is a two-way street. It seems that as long as Qing Yan and I don't get involved in the story of the male and female leads, our plotline won't appear in the comic. Thinking of this, I turned my head to look at Qing Yan and couldn't help but ask, "Why did you suddenly agree to take them in? That guy clearly doesn't look like a good person." Qing Yan ruffled my hair and winked at me with a grin. "Of course I know you don't like them, but given their personalities, if we don't let them stay, they'll probably pester us endlessly. We can't really blow up the shelter and go down with them, can we? Besides," he gave a sly smile and suddenly grabbed my wrist. The next second, we entered a pure white space. Surprised, my spatial pocket ability has awakened. Jingchuan agreed to trade with us for the ability-enhancing serum anyway. I have more than one shelter. Once we get our hands on it, we'll stash the supplies in the space and make a run for it, leaving them with nothing but an empty shell to regret. Hearing this plan, I couldn't help but laugh along. "So you were injured and unconscious because you awakened an ability. That's truly the first piece of good news I've heard since the apocalypse began." Qing Yan pulled me to sit down in the space. "After so many days, I can finally get a good night's sleep. Although we can only open the space for an hour each day now, it's absolutely safe. You rest first, I'll keep watch. By the way, once we find your uncle in the settlement, you won't have to push yourself so hard." Wait, absolutely safe. I suddenly remembered the basement mentioned in the bullet comments, the one with unlimited supplies and absolute safety. Could it be? I tried to activate my rather useless special ability today. It randomly produced 2 bottles of purified water and a pack of compressed biscuits. In an instant, countless identical supplies poured down from the sky. In the blink of an eye, they piled up into a small mountain in this confined space. Qing Yan and I looked at each other, and he stammered, asking, "Gun Yan, has your ability leveled up too?" Sure enough, those outrageous comments finally proved to be somewhat useful. I tore open a pack of biscuits and stuffed one into his mouth, a smug smile curling at the corner of my lips. "No, this is our special ability." Since those barrage of comments could provide useful information, I decided to temporarily tolerate this so-called male and female lead. When Baiyu, for the 9th time, held out her treasured milk candies and tearfully apologized to me, I not only refrained from scolding her but also accepted her milk candies. Qing Yan, seeing this, gently patted my shoulder. "It seems my little lunatic has finally learned how to make new friends." I responded perfunctorily, my eyes fixed on the bullet comments floating in mid-air. In the hall, Jing Chuan was teaching Baiyu self-defense techniques. He wrapped his arms around her slender waist from behind, guiding her hands to demonstrate the key points of self-defense. Baiyu was exhausted and out of breath, her legs giving way as she collapsed into his arms. "Jing, I'm here." He gently supported her. The barrage exploded with a wave of screams. I couldn't help but twitch the corner of my mouth and spoke up to interrupt this nauseating act. "Should we take a break first? Let's rest for a while, or we might end up with an R-rated scene in the shelter." Baiyu flusteredly jumped out of Jing Chuan's embrace, waving her hands in explanation. "Sister Nian, don't misunderstand. Jing and I aren't the kind of relationship you're thinking of. Please, no one cares, okay?" The barrage is starting to criticize me again, calling me a jealous person who can't stand seeing others in love. Suddenly, a low, rumbling sound came from outside. 3 helicopters coated with anti-radiation paint hovered overhead, and a mechanical female voice came from the loudspeaker. The government has set up a radiation-proof settlement zone and a supplies trading market in District D13. Survivors in need are requested to proceed there for registration. After the broadcast repeated 3 times, the helicopter turned toward other areas. Bai Yu tugged at Jingchuan's sleeve. Jing, let's go check it out. We might be able to trade for some good stuff. Jingchuan nodded, but his gaze shifted toward Qingyan. Would you like to come along? It's better to have more people to look out for each other. Qingyan looked at me. Gun Yan, do you want to go? I remained silent. Actually, I have to go. These days, I can clearly feel that my mental state is on the verge of collapse. If I don't take my medication soon, I'm afraid I might really go insane. At this moment, the barrage started scrolling excitedly. Finally, this part of the plot, Gun Yan and Qingyan, those annoying flies, are about to die in the settlement area. Our Yaya not only gets the healing ability but also successfully secures this shelter. It's just perfect. I can't wait any longer. Fast forward, fast forward. I stared intently at these words floating in the void, my dagger unconsciously turning in my hand. Damn, don't rush. It's still uncertain who will live and who will die, since this is Qingyan's refuge, so the healing ability should also be within our grasp. The resettlement area and the shelter are located at the eastern and western ends of the city, respectively, making the journey quite long. The outdoor temperature has plummeted to -20 degrees Celsius, making it impossible to walk there. Since we had agreed to go together, Qingyan no longer held back. He took me to inventory the supplies we were going to exchange, and early the next morning, we drove the modified armored vehicle out of the underground garage. Thanks to Uncle Qingyan's ability to detect weather anomalies in advance, our supplies were still relatively sufficient. Without a word, I changed the tires to anti-skid ones and loaded 2 boxes of fuel into the trunk, and only then did our group set off. The modified military green armored vehicle advanced through the lifeless city. The closer they got to the settlement area, the more stumbling people appeared on the road. They wore tattered protective suits, gasping for breath with every step. Many collapsed to the ground after just a few steps, never to rise again. Bai Yu held the purified warm water that Jing Chuan had given her, watching the disaster victims outside the window as she wiped the corner of her eye. A small, frail figure stumbled and fell in front of the car, and she immediately turned her head away, unable to bear the sight. "Ah Jing, brother Qingyan, sister Nian," she sobbed softly. "Could we spare some supplies for her? Let the child go home sooner." Jing Chuan gripped the steel rod he used for self-defense and remained silent, but he usually went along with Bai Yu, and silence meant consent. Qingyan frowned and interrupted. "Miss Bai, stopping the car now will attract more people, then we'll be the ones who suffer." Bai Yu lowered her head in grievance. "I see, but that child looks so pitiful." The barrage immediately erupted with indignant accusations. "Woo-woo. Yaya is so kind-hearted, she can't bear to see others suffer. Qingyan and the others clearly have more supplies than they can eat, yet they won't even save a child. They're not human. Every month brings beautiful scenery and divine blessings. All villains are bad, kind." I let out a mocking laugh. He suddenly turned the steering wheel and reversed, thoughtfully helping Bai Yu roll down the window. "Qingyan and I don't have any extra supplies anyway. You're so kind. If you have extras, you can share them." The little girl struggled to get up from the ground, covered in mud, and stared at the purified water in Bai Yu's hand. All the survivors knew this stuff was more precious than gold. The sweet scent of water drifted into his nostrils. He had been thirsty for far too long. The little girl lunged forward to snatch it, her grimy hands reaching out toward Bai Yu. "Ah!" Bai Yu screamed and dodged backward, her hand trembling as she spilled most of the bottle of water. The little girl's eyes were filled with a desperate longing for food, eagerly trying to grab her sleeve to say something. How could Bai Yu have the mind to listen to this? She burrowed straight into Jing Chuan's arms. Jing Chuan's eyes turned cold as he raised the steel rod in his hand and smashed it down hard on the little girl's head. I seized the moment, just as Jing Chuan's steel rod slipped from his hand, and I sharply turned the steering wheel. The screech of tires echoed on the dilapidated cement road. The steel rod missed its target, hitting the back of the seat heavily before bouncing onto Bai Yu's leg. She gasped in pain and was quickly pulled into Jingchuan's arms as he held her anxiously. From the rearview mirror, I saw the little girl sitting on the ground, still in shock, staring in disbelief at the supply pack I had thrown. Looking up, I met Jing Chuan's bloodshot eyes. His entire body radiated killing intent. His jaw clenched so tightly it seemed he might shatter his teeth. "Explain," he said, word by word. I shrugged, feigning innocence. "If we don't leave now, we'll be surrounded by the crowd, don't you think so?" The next second, a cold gleam brushed past my cheek, and the dagger embedded itself in the steering wheel, leaving a trail of blood. "Just this once." Jingchuan's voice was as cold as ice. "Stay out of my business. Even if more people had come just now, I could have killed them all. I will never let anyone harm Yaya." Blood trickled down my face, and I casually licked it away. Qing Yan was so anxious behind me that he wanted to rush forward, but I gently shook my head to stop him. "All right," I replied leisurely. The barrage had inexplicably gone quiet since Jingchuan was about to kill the little girl, and it wasn't until now that the discussion resumed, so it was to protect Yaya. "Jing Shen is so doting, I'm totally fangirling over this. That girl got what she deserved. Couldn't she just speak properly? She had to lunge and snatch it. I say people like her shouldn't be saved. Look how scared she made our precious Yaya. In the end, isn't it all Gunyan's fault? She knew it was dangerous but deliberately stopped to stir up trouble. She's just plain malicious. She's the one who deserves to die the most." Watching these biased and absurd comments, I sneered inwardly. Should we just kill off this male and female lead and make Qing Yan the protagonist of the story? After all, if Qing Yan were the protagonist, he would definitely be 10,000 times better than that imposter Baiyu. The armored vehicle arrived at the settlement area without any major incidents. Several heavily armed guards stopped us and directed us to line up at the entrance for further inspection. Seeing these well-equipped armed forces, my tense nerves relaxed slightly. As long as there are still people maintaining order, the world won't completely collapse. Qing Yan and I exchanged a glance, and I could see the same thought in his eyes. Perhaps in the future, we might also find a place to settle here. Surprisingly, there were many people in the resettlement area, with cars and people forming long queues. Half an hour later, we finally finished registering our information and entered the open-air trading area. The resettlement area is further inside, and one must pass through multiple layers of scrutiny to enter. Agreeing on a meeting time with Baiyu at Jingchuan, we split up and went our separate ways at the entrance. Although the trading area was chaotic, it was still relatively orderly, especially the medicine section, which was bustling with people. Qing Yan happily put his arm around my shoulder. "Take a look. What would you like to trade for? It's on me. I've given it some serious thought. I'll follow your lead. But if we're going to continue east to find your uncle, we need to stock up on more protective gear and medicine. Our previous supplies are almost used up. As for the rest, I should be able to get them by chance. These past few days, our abilities have been working well together. Besides the initial water and bread, we've also produced a lot of radiation-proof supplies, which are in high demand here. Most of what we brought this time are these items. Then let's split up. I'll go check out the military zone, and you go look for your medicine." "Deal." The trading area has armed patrols every few dozen meters, so I'm not worried about his safety. Radiation protection supplies are very popular here, and I quickly exchanged them for common medicines, but I searched the entire market and couldn't find the psychiatric medication I urgently need. I was just about to try my luck in the outskirts when a familiar barrage suddenly flashed by. Ah! I finally get to see this part of the plot. Yaya is about to get the healing ability. My gaze sharpened. Amid the noisy crowd, I spotted Baiyu's figure at a glance and silently followed her. Baiyu wandered alone in the trading area, occasionally tiptoeing to look over the stalls, appearing quite nonchalant. I narrowed my eyes, watching her back, feeling that something was off. From her deliberately slowed pace, it was clear she was wandering toward the outskirts of the trading area. What exactly is she up to? I followed behind Baiyu, maintaining a safe distance where the barrage couldn't see me. I saw her walk further into a remote corner, quickly crouch down, and lift a tattered blanket covered in radiation dust. A little girl was curled up under the blanket. The child looked about 8 or 9 years old, her face pale and lips purple, too weak to speak. She stared at the purification bottle peeking out of Baiyu's waist pouch, her eyes filled with pleading. Baiyu poked her cheek with a finger, then disgustedly felt around her body as if searching for something. I took a few steps forward and finally saw the content of the bullet comments clearly. "It's her. It's this little girl. kind-hearted Yaya accidentally found her and wanted to save her. Unfortunately, the child was too weak and didn't survive until Jingshan arrived, otherwise she definitely could have lived. Yaya was sad for a long time because of this, but as a result, she absorbed the little girl's healing ability, and from then on, she rose to the top in the post-apocalyptic world, turning misfortune into a blessing. Well, isn't that obvious? The person is almost starving to death, and you not only refuse to give them food but also put on a show of crying in front of them. If it were me, I'd be furious too. After learning that not everyone can absorb it, I felt a bit disappointed. I thought I could make Qing Yan stronger too, but what Qing Yan can't have, Baiyu shouldn't get either. Just as I pulled out my slingshot and took aim, I saw Baiyu vent her anger by kicking the little girl, then pat her pants and walk away. The barrage instantly exploded. Wait, that's not right. Shouldn't Yaya be looking for Jingshan behind her back? Did I just see that wrong? Was she just kicking someone? The plot doesn't seem right. Did the author change the storyline? Thank goodness. Someone finally noticed that Baiyu was acting strange. I leaned against the wall, waiting for Baiyu to walk further away, then took the food and approached the little girl. After feeding her some strawberry energy bars I had with me, the little girl soon recovered, looking at me with teary eyes. Sister, I will definitely repay you. I laughingly wiped the tears from her face and draped a spare protective suit over her. Stop crying, or you'll get frostbite. What's your name? And big sister doesn't need you to repay her, if you really want to. Just follow a brother named Xing Yan from now on. If one day I really lose control due to my illness, having a healing ability user by Qing Yan's side will let me rest in peace. The little girl nodded in confusion, with a serious and earnest expression. My name is Xiaomi. Don't worry, sister, I'll be good and listen to you. I carried Xiaomi on my back and walked toward the meeting spot I had arranged with Qing Yan, holding a backpack. Xiaomi's parents had protected her during the initial radiation disaster, but when the extreme cold arrived, they took off their protective suits and gave them to her, freezing to death themselves. After the supplies at home were all gone, she had no choice but to come to the shelter area to try her luck. As soon as she entered the trading area, she collapsed from exhaustion. She lay on my back, sobbing quietly. If it weren't for Sister Nian Nian, I would have died here. Not only will you die, but you'll also let some damn protagonist suck away your rare ability, I muttered to myself, once again lamenting how utterly terrible this comic world was. Qing Yan spotted me from afar carrying a child on my back, his eyes lighting up as he rushed over in a few quick steps and deliberately poked my shoulder. Hey, you've got a kid already in such a short time. Be honest, whose is this? Xiaomi giggled. You must be brother Qing Yan, right? Just as gentle as Sister Ninian said. I handed Xiaomi over to him and shot him an annoyed glare. Stop the flattery. This is a rare healing type ability user. Qing Yan raised his eyebrows in surprise, and Xiaomi also pointed at himself in confusion. Me? Yes, so, saving you was also for a purpose. If you mind, you can take the supplies and leave once you've rested. The settlement area is not far away, and healing abilities are in high demand in the post-apocalyptic world. I believe she can live well on her own. Unexpectedly, Xiaomi shook her head, her eyes crinkling with a smile. How could I mind? Meeting Sister Nian and Brother Yan is my good fortune. But, she scratched her head sheepishly. I might not be very good at using my ability yet. After resting for an hour, Xiaomi finally recovered. Qing Yan went to the market in exchange for a child-sized protective suit, then used scarce anti-radiation medicine to trade with the guards for access to the water purification room. Seeing the admiration in Xiaomi's eyes, he proudly flicked his bangs. No big deal. Stick with us and you'll eat well. Guaranteed. Go get cleaned up. Half an hour later, Qing Yan and I, carrying supplies and leading Xiaomi who had changed into clean clothes, arrived at the spot we had agreed upon with Baiyu and the others. Baiyu didn't recognize the completely transformed Xiaomi at all, her eyes fixed intently on the bulging backpacks Qing Yan and I were carrying. Brother Yan, Sister Nian, what good stuff did you trade for? Seeing that no one paid her any attention, she awkwardly stuck out her tongue, scrutinized Xiaomi critically, and turned to complain to Jing Chuan. Why did you bring a burden back with you? Supplies were already scarce, and now it's even more troublesome. Although I had given Xiaomi a heads up in advance, she was still frightened when she saw Baiyu again, hiding behind me and clutching the hem of my clothes. Too afraid to look at her, I patted her hand reassuringly, but before I could speak, Qing Yan chimed in with a smile. Miss Bai should worry about her own rations. We at Xiaomi don't need yours. Our supplies are none of your concern. Baiyu's face turned pale then flushed. She had never been so bluntly shut down by the usually mild-tempered Qing Yan. The number of comments defending her in the live chat dwindled, leaving only a few scattered ones criticizing Qing Yan for not knowing how to treat a lady with courtesy. Jingchuan frowned and interrupted Qing Yan. Don't go too far. Ye is still young. It's normal for her to be naive. I'll teach her these things gradually. She's already in her 20s and still considered young and naive. I really can't be bothered with this pair of infantile CP. At dusk, we carried the exchange supplies and prepared to leave the trading area. A gunshot suddenly rang out in the howling wind, and the soldier guarding the checkpoint fell to the ground. Warm blood splattered across my face, dyeing my vision crimson. Only those glaring bullet comments remain clear, as if they are about to be burned into my retina. Finally, there's a plot that makes me happy. It doesn't matter if the healing ability wasn't obtained, as long as Qing Yan and Gun Yan die in this chaotic battle, the shelter will still be Ye's. The great luck of the Koi Saint female lead is just this mystical, but they really died unjustly, but there's no helping it. Who told them to be the villainous cannon fodders? Cannon fodders should just have the fate of cannon fodders. Gunfire echoed from the front, mingled with the screams of the crowd. As the soldiers of the defense team fell one by one, I wiped the blood from my face and curled my lips into a cold smile. Who gave you the right to decide the fate of me and Qing Yan? Since this is the ending the comic world has arranged for us, I will rewrite it by stepping over the corpses of this despicable couple. I and Qing Yan protected Xiaomi as we retreated through the chaos, with Baiyu tightly clutching Jingchuan's sleeve, following closely behind. Just as we were about to reach the safe zone, a sudden loud noise erupted from behind. The deafening explosion left everyone disoriented and dizzy. The crowd erupted into even greater panic. There was a traitor in the trading zone. The tightly packed crowd instantly scattered, and at that moment, a pair of hands suddenly shoved me and Qing Yan forcefully, just waiting for this moment. A cold glint flashed in my eyes as I pulled Qing Yan aside and swiftly kicked the assailant in the knee. Ah! Baiyu instantly screamed and fell to the ground on his knees. The next second, the bullet grazed past her temple, cutting off a few strands of hair. Even though Jingchuan swiftly pulled her into his arms to protect her, Baiyu was still trembling with fear, her pants soaked through. They finally found a safe shelter to take cover temporarily. Baiyu had been looking around, trying to identify the person who had pushed her, noticing Jingchuan was subtly keeping his distance from her. Her eyes instantly welled up with tears. Baiyu tightly clutched the hem of Jingchuan's clothes, the veins on the back of her hand bulging. "Ah Jing, do you despise me? You said it yourself. No matter what I become, you would never abandon me." Jingchuan's forehead veins were throbbing, and after a long silence, he pulled her back into his embrace. "No, I was just observing the situation earlier. That lie was way too obvious." Xiaomi and I couldn't help but exchange a glance, secretly laughing. Not sure if Baiyu was genuinely naive or just pretending, she wiped away her tears and smiled, snuggling into Jingchuan's arms. Boom, rumble, the gunfire in the distance gradually grew sparse, and the trading area finally fell silent. The calm voice of the settlement zone's commander came through the loudspeaker. "Everyone, take cover nearby. Do not panic. We are sending people to assist. I repeat, do not panic." Soon, a team of fully armed soldiers approached our location. They formed a protective circle with their shields, shielding us in the center, and withdrew toward the safe zone under heavy gunfire. Several other squads were doing the same thing in the surrounding area. By the time we were taken to the shelter, Qing Yan and I didn't even have a chance to thank them before they hurried off to rescue the next group. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder and the sound of crying. The atmosphere so oppressive it was suffocating. Only Baiyu seemed to have just realized what happened, clutching her knee and sobbing. "Ah Jing, my leg hurts so much." Jingchuan responded with a stiff face. "I'll help you apply the medicine in a moment." A few scattered comments floated by. So sweet. With the arrival of the reinforcements, the situation gradually stabilized. I suddenly caught sight of a comment. Actually, the leader of the resettlement area is quite capable. If it weren't for someone backstabbing him, Yaya would definitely have a better life here. I looked into the distance and indeed saw the commander's tent directing the battle. Qing Yan saw what was on my mind and said softly, "If you want to go help, just go. I can take care of myself and Xiaomi." I nodded and was about to leave when I suddenly remembered Jing Chuan, who was known as the strongest fighter in the apocalypse, was still by my side. "Jing Chuan, are you going? He just saved us. Shouldn't we repay the favor?" Jing Chuan's eyes flickered, and just as he was about to say something, Bai Yu tugged at his sleeve, looking at him with a pitiful expression. "Can you not leave, Jing? I'm scared to be alone." Jing Chuan patted her head, then turned to answer me. "No, I have to stay and protect Yaya." I snorted coldly, picked up my crossbow, and turned to leave. What kind of apocalypse story protagonists are these? They're just a bunch of selfish jerks. Fortunately, the enemies didn't have any powerful superhumans. They were all fighting with ordinary weapons. I used my crossbow to pick off the ambushing rebels one by one, quickly catching the attention of the frontline soldiers. Not bad skills for a young lady. Someone in the trench gave me a thumbs up. I shot an arrow and killed a rebel who was trying to ambush him. Then got straight to the point and asked, "Can you take me to see the commander? I have important intelligence about the rebels." The atmosphere in the command tent was tense, with everyone's eyes fixed on the figure in the center. The soldier led me through several protective doors and into the tent. "Report. Someone claims to have crucial intelligence about the rebels." The officer in the middle and his adjutant turned around simultaneously. But I froze in place. That familiar profile nearly made me cry out, "Uncle Qing, aren't you supposed to be at the research institute?" A flicker of surprise crossed Uncle Qing Yan's eyes, but he quickly regained his composure. "Ahem, tell me about the intelligence you've gathered." Remembering the main task, I stopped dwelling on it and quickly shared all the information I had seen from the barrage. "The rebels don't have much weapon reserves. If we can hold out for another half hour, they'll run out of ammunition." A square-faced man in the crowd sneered coldly. "How can a little girl like you know so clearly?" "Sir, this can't be trusted." I glanced at him sideways. "I'm right under your noses. What good would making up a story do for me?" Uncle Qing stepped forward to vouch for me. "I've watched this child grow up. She doesn't lie." The man called the officer swept a sharp gaze over me. "All right, we'll do as you say." They immediately adjusted their deployment based on my clues, guiding the enemy to deplete their ammunition. Half an hour later, the enemy's firepower indeed weakened. Just as everyone breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to counterattack, a figure suddenly darted out from the corner, a pitch-black gun barrel aimed at the commander. I sneered, "The rat has finally shown its tail." The next second, the soldiers who had been lying in wait outside the door moved in and shot to disable his limbs. The square-faced man collapsed on the ground, his face full of unwillingness. The officer shook his head in disappointment and ordered him to be dragged away. After the riot was quelled, the officer asked me what reward I wanted, whether it was supplies or points. I pointed at Uncle Qing and laughed. "If you're not too busy, could you lend me Officer Qing for a while? His nephew misses him a lot." Uncle Qing scolded me for being disrespectful, but after getting permission from the officer, he hurriedly left with me. Uncle Qing said that he had predicted the radiation anomaly and filed a report to request a transfer to this area. Who would have thought that as soon as I arrived here, I encountered radiation and never got the chance to contact you? Fortunately, I managed to settle down in the resettlement area in the end and have been trying to get news about you all along. I nodded. "Qing Yan is doing well, and I'm sure he'll be especially happy to see you safe and sound." I took Uncle Qing to find Qing Yan. Reuniting at the end of the world, the uncle and nephew embraced without a word, both grown men with red-rimmed eyes. Xiaomi and I crouched nearby, chewing on the nutrition bars Uncle Qing had given us. As we munched away, Xiaomi suddenly burst into laughter. "What's so funny?" I asked curiously. She pointed backward. "Look at Bai Yu. She's so angry her hair is standing on end." Following the direction of her finger, "Wow, and that's not all." Bai Yu's face was twisted with anger, the jealousy in her eyes almost scorching. Uncle Qing patted Qing Yan on the shoulder. "Stay in the resettlement area. The protective measures here are complete, and I can take care of you both." Qing Yan gave me a sly look and agreed with a smile. "Of course, that sounds good, but we need to go home first to pack some things before coming back." I nodded, holding back a laugh. I know he was trying to take the opportunity to continue using Jingchuan to enhance his spatial ability. Coincidentally, I also have a surprise to give to Baiyu. On the way back to the shelter, Baiyu kept subtly inquiring about Uncle Qing. Brother Yen, your uncle is really impressive. Being the deputy to the commander, he must be a big shot, right? I really admire scientists like that. Could you take me along next time you meet? Qing Yen was holding the drowsy Xiaomi in his arms. And at these words, the corner of his mouth twitched. Sorry, I don't really know the details about my uncle's affairs, but if you're interested, you can come to the settlement area to play with me and Nian Nian in the future. Baiyu's eyes lit up as she caught the key word. In the future, Qing Yen smiled faintly. We're planning to move in with my uncle. You can have this shelter. Baiyu was both shocked and overjoyed, her voice trembling with emotion. Really, Brother Yen? You're such a great person. When Qing Yan's space expanded to 100 square meters, we moved all the supplies out before the extreme cold arrived and left the shelter with Xiaomi. On the day we left, Baiyu saw us off with tears in her eyes. Brother Yen, Sister Nian, and little sister Xiaomi, I'll miss you all. The barrage is also going wild with cheers. Popping champagne for the male and female leads as they are about to embark on a wonderful life for two with abundant supplies. While others eat grass, they'll be feasting on meat. Amazing. After all the twists and turns, Yaya finally has a shelter. This is the true value of being a koi saint, who cares about not having healing abilities. With this shelter of infinite supplies, Yaya and Jingshan can live without worries about food and clothing. Exactly. What does it matter about uncles or settlement zones? When the extreme cold hits and resources run low, people will just turn on each other. How could they ever live as comfortably as our Yaya and Jingshin? As expected, it has to be the chosen male and female leads. This plot is so satisfying. Koi Saint body. I sneered and slammed the car door shut, driving away with Qing Yan and Xiaomi, leaving a trail of dust behind. I hope your Koi Saint body won't freeze in the extreme cold, or turn into fireworks in an explosion. What a pity. What a pity. I won't be able to see that scene with my own eyes. As soon as the car disappeared from sight, Baiyu couldn't wait to rush into the basement. Her heart was beating so fast it felt like it was about to leap out of her throat. This was the legendary basement that could continuously produce supplies. Before crossing over, she thought, if she had such an extraordinary ability, wouldn't she be able to dominate in the post-apocalyptic world? Fools like Qing Yan and Gun Yan, just because they found an official uncle, gave up such a great place. How utterly stupid. After leaving the shelter, they probably won't even make it to the settlement area and will die on the way. And she will fulfill her dream, living a carefree life in the post-apocalyptic world with a handsome, loyal, and Yandra male lead. Step by step approaching that reinforced protective door, her footsteps unconsciously slowed down. She suddenly felt an indescribable tension. What supplies would be refreshed inside today? Would there be the urgently needed radiation medicine? Could she really become the lucky koi, blessed by fate? Click. Baiyu pushed the door with all her strength. It didn't budge. The heavy iron chains and lock struck her like a resounding slap in the face. Ah, you bitch, die, she screamed, her voice nearly tearing her throat apart. Jingchuan heard the commotion and rushed over. Yaya, what's wrong? The huge disparity made Baiyu completely lose control. Qing Yan and Gun Yan, that despicable couple, were just playing me. They never intended to give me shelter. Scumbags, those scumbags, may they die a miserable death. Jingchuan frowned, somewhat puzzled. It's just a basement, isn't it? Is it really worth getting this angry? Baiyu clenched her palm tightly, her nails digging into her flesh without her even noticing. You don't understand, this is no ordinary basement. She suddenly remembered something and looked up at Jingchuan with a pitiful expression. Ah, Jing, can you help me open it? She knew Jingchuan couldn't resist her when she looked like this. Sure enough, after carefully examining the lock, Jingchuan nodded. It can be opened, but we need to find some tools. Baiyu breathed a sigh of relief and urged impatiently. Great, I knew you were the best, Jing. At that moment, she also realized she had lost her composure earlier. So she quickly adjusted her expression and revealed a gentle smile. Sorry, Jing, I just feel like Qing Yan and the others are a bit untrustworthy. They clearly promised to give us the entire shelter, but now they've left this locked area behind." She lowered her gaze and murmured softly, but thinking about it calmly, "It's already very generous of them to give up so much space. I was just being too greedy." "Aw Jing, do you think I'm being too nitpicky?" In the dim light, Biyue's eyes were red at the corners, her expression pitiful and delicate. Jingchuan felt his heart ache terribly and quickly said, "Of course not, you deserve the very best. I'll go get the tools right away." Baiyu watched Jingchuan's hurriedly departing figure, a hint of satisfaction flashing in her eyes. What about the male lead? He's just a fool blinded by love, easily manipulated by her. However, the lock set by Qing Yan was far more difficult to deal with than expected. Jingchuan tried several times without success, until the radiation counter-alarm went off again, and he finally returned with the tools. Baiyu thought to herself with disdain, it took him so long just to open a lock, and he still calls himself a top-tier superhuman. Fortunately, the lock was successfully opened before the extreme cold arrived, so everything was still in time. The iron chains clattered to the ground, and Baiyu excitedly pushed Jingchuan aside. "Aw Jing is really amazing. Let Ye open the door." She pushed open the shelter door with an expectant look on her face. Slap! Something was knocked over in the darkness. Suddenly, a strange radiation alarm popped up in front of Baiyu, emitting a piercing alarm sound. She was so frightened that she stepped back repeatedly. When she saw that the shelter was completely empty, she flew into a rage, grabbed the alarm and slammed it to the ground. Bitch! Jingchuan's face suddenly changed. Baiyu didn't notice that the shattered alarm was flashing an eerie red light. "Yeah, be careful." Jingchuan suddenly pushed her to the ground. Boom, boom, boom. The blast's shockwaves slammed both of them against the wall before they crashed heavily to the ground. Jingchuan spat out a mouthful of blood but still shielded Baiyu fiercely. Amid the thick smoke, he stared bewildered at Baiyu's contorted face. Strange. When did she start showing such a ferocious expression? The explosion destroyed the shelter's power supply system, allowing the extreme cold to invade. Howling winds, carrying radioactive dust, poured into the shelter, and the temperature plummeted at a visible rate. In less than half an hour, thick frost had formed in the corners of the walls. If it weren't for Jingchuan regaining consciousness in time and putting protective suits and thermal gear on both of them, they would have frozen into ice sculptures while unconscious. Fortunately, with the previously stored supplies and the sturdy protection of the shelter, they managed to survive the extreme cold. However, Baiyu's hatred for Qing Yan and Gun Yan grew stronger with each passing day. Recalling the meaningful smile Gun Yan had when she left, Baiyu finally understood. Those two must have known something all along and deliberately snatched the golden opportunity that should have been mine. They're probably laughing at me right now in the shelter, mocking the way I begged them for help. Why should she be here, shivering like a leaf while chewing on cold, hard compressed biscuits, and yet those two are living it up comfortably in the shelter, unwilling. She simply couldn't accept it. As the extreme cold finally began to fade, Baiyu held Jingchuan and wept uncontrollably. "Brother, Qing Yan and Gun Yan deceived us. They stole everything that was rightfully mine." She lifted her tear-streaked face. "Will you help me kill them and take back what belongs to me?" After leaving the shelter, we arrived at the settlement area just as the extreme cold was beginning to subside. Thanks to notifying Uncle Qing in advance, the protective measures here were well prepared, and everything was handled in an orderly manner to cope with the natural disaster. Hail clattered against the protective cover, but our family of four, huddled in the small cabin arranged by Uncle Qing, felt warm and cozy. The induction cooker on the table bubbled and gurgled, the steaming aroma of hot pot wafting into our noses, making even the air taste sweet. Uncle Qing raised his glass. "Long time no see. Cheers." Qing Yan and I exchanged a smile and raised our glasses. "To hope." Xiaomi pursed her lips and thought for a long time before shaking her juice and shouting, To survival." Everyone laughed. No matter how difficult the road ahead may be, isn't there such a warm and lively atmosphere at this moment? What does the apocalypse matter? We will definitely pull through. Once the extreme cold passes, the settlement begins organizing teams to go out and search for supplies. You can keep what you find, and any extras can be exchanged for points to trade for other supplies in the settlement area. The three of us also took on a few simple tasks. It was actually quite easy. Just wander around outside and have Qing Yan retrieve some supplies from his space to turn in by evening. But Qing Yan didn't want to just go through the motions. He insisted on seriously looking for something useful. Xiaomi and I were quite happy to be lazy, lying in a sheltered corner to bask in the sun. Sister Nian, Xiaomi suddenly said, "Thank you for saving me. This life is so beautiful I can hardly believe it's real." "Don't talk nonsense." I poked her forehead. Xiaomi pouted and suddenly thought of something. "But, it seems I'm not really a healing type ability user. I can't actually heal others. Maybe it's not yet time for awakening." I comforted her. "Look at Qing Yan's and my abilities. Aren't they only powerful when we work together? If it weren't for all those chaotic bullet comments, who would have thought our abilities combined could be so miraculous?" Xiaomi fell silent, clearly still troubled. I sighed inwardly and touched the psychiatric medication disguised as vitamins in my pocket. "The other day, the doctor told me this is the last bottle in the settlement area. After this, you'll have to rely on yourself. Such is fate. During this time, our abilities have covered everything from pots and pans to daily necessities, but there's no medication for mental conditions. Forget it. Let's take it one step at a time and see how things go. At worst, I'll just pick a good day to say a proper goodbye." I looked at Qing Yan, who was busy not far away, and couldn't help but smile. The next moment, my pupils suddenly constricted. Jingchuan rushed out from nowhere, delivering a sharp chop to the back of Qing Yan's neck. Qing Yan collapsed limply, without a change in expression. He dropped a note and vanished into the ruins. Xiaomi and I hurried over in a panic. The handwriting on the note was menacing. "You have half an hour to return what you stole." When I went to the agreed location alone, after a month and a half apart, Baiyu had completely changed. Her face was sallow, her body so thin it was like skin and bones, but her eyes were frighteningly bright, fixed on me with intense hatred. "Gu Nian, you stole everything that was rightfully mine, the ability to summon random supplies, spatial powers, and even the location of the settlement zone. All of this should have been hers." After a long absence, the barrage of comments appeared before my eyes once again. So it was this despicable couple who stole Yeya's golden finger. I knew there was a reason why our dear Yeya ended up like that before. Support Yeya's counterattack. Take back everything that belongs to you. Don't be afraid, Yeya baby. You still have Jing Shen. He will always choose you unconditionally. So heartwarming. I gripped the dagger and said coldly, "Where is Qing Yan? I know you can only see special abilities by killing someone with your own hands, so let me confirm his safety first. Otherwise, I don't mind taking you down with me." Baiyu sneered and snapped her fingers. A moment later, Jingchuan carried the unconscious Qing Yan out. Baiyu pressed the tip of her knife against Qing Yan's throat. "I know he's important to you, so I haven't touched him for now. But if you don't cooperate, don't blame me for being ruthless." I took a deep breath. "What do you want?" "Simple. Your life in exchange for his freedom. Let me kill you to gain your power, and I'll let him go." I looked at Qing Yan's pale face. "How can I be sure you'll keep your promise after I die?" Baiyu sneered. "Do you think I'm as hypocritical as you are?" The barrage echoed in unison. "Exactly. If you hadn't stolen Yeya's golden finger, would she have ended up like this? Now you're getting your just desserts." "Serves you right." I remained silent for a moment. "All right, I agree. How are you going to kill me?" Baiyu was overjoyed and approached me accompanied by Jing Chuan. "First, throw away the knife." I complied. "Then, let me see your special ability." With a flick of the finger, a large pile of protective suits and water purifiers suddenly appeared on the ground. Baiyu's eyes lit up. "What a remarkable ability. Too bad it's about to change hands." She lunged forward. The dagger aimed straight at my heart. Just then, Qing Yan, who had been unconscious, suddenly opened his eyes and grabbed Baiyu's hair. I seized the opportunity to pick up the dagger from the ground and charged at Jing Chuan. The combat training I had been doing during this time finally came in handy. Restraining Jing Chuan temporarily shouldn't be a problem, for people were brawling together, with protective suits and water purification bottles scattered all over the ground. The scene descended into chaos for a while. From time to time, a few broken water bottles flew through the air, hitting Jingchuan and Baiyu on the head. The damage was minimal, but the humiliation was extreme. I yelled at the bushes at the same time as Qing Yan. "Xiaomi, who told you to run here?" Another empty bottle flew out of the bushes, looking aggrieved. Half an hour isn't enough to go back to the settlement and get help. Besides, we're family. How could I ever abandon you? This silly child, Qing Yan and I exchanged a glance. Feeling both frustrated and deeply moved, Jingchuan's attacks grew increasingly fierce, each strike aimed at a fatal spot. My physical strength is rapidly declining, and my vision is starting to blur. Although Qing Yan has the upper hand, he is also being relentlessly entangled by the frantic Bai Yu and can't break free. If this continues, we're all going to be finished. Might as well take a gamble. Amid the chaos, Qing Yan and I exchanged a glance. Seizing another chance to get close to the supply pile, he abruptly threw a stack of protective suits into the space and then activated the device prepared in advance. Boom, 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 explosions rang out one after another, the shockwaves making it impossible to keep our eyes open. Everyone instinctively stepped back. But Bai Yu, in a moment of panic, actually ran toward me. The opportunity has arrived. Without hesitation, I swung my blade, only to be sent flying by a sharp kick. Jing Chuan stood coldly in front of Bai Yu, glaring at me. I said, as long as I'm here, no one can harm her. Not far away, Qing Yan and Xiaomi were also thrown to the ground, their fate unknown. I spat out a mouthful of blood, my heart sinking. Could it be that we truly cannot escape this tragic fate? The barrage once again erupted with overwhelming cheers. Jing Shen is so handsome. I absolutely adore how he's a wife-protecting maniac. Gun Yan, just accept your fate. As long as Jing Shen is alive, you'll never be able to harm Yaya. My dear, I'm totally obsessed with this kind of unwavering love. Even in the apocalypse, they're still running towards each other. I'm so moved I could cry. I think Jing Shen is Yaya's childhood sweetheart, right? Where did you see this part? Sis, I don't remember this scene at all. This is the side story that was just updated yesterday. You should go catch up. Jingchuan gripped the steel rod and stepped closer, while Baiyu behind him let out a sinister laugh. What a pity. I originally wanted to give you a quick end. Since that's the case, Jing, help me break her bones one by one. I ignored her, my mind racing through the information I had gathered from the barrage of comments. Just as the steel rod was about to smash into my leg, I pieced together the information in a flash and suddenly shouted, Jing Chuan, stop deceiving yourself. The person before you is not the real Bai Yu at all. The steel rod stopped an inch away from my leg, and I looked up, meeting Jing Chuan's bloodshot eyes. You've actually known all along, haven't you? The real Bai Yu is strong and kind, which is why fate favored her to become the protagonist. But this fake Bai Yu is selfish and cruel, with an air of incongruity in every way. Can you honestly say you've never felt that something was off? Jingchuan slowly turned his head. Shut up, Baiyue screamed. You wretch, what nonsense are you talking? Baiyue's face changed dramatically, and she hurriedly forced an ingratiating smile at Jingchuan. Chuan, don't listen to her provocation. I'm Yaya, I'm your favorite Yaya. I sneered and continued. You thief who's occupying someone else's body, aren't you ashamed to say that? Since you're real, then tell me, the scene of your first meeting with Jingchuan. Baiyu's face lit up with joy, and without hesitation, she said, of course, we first met in a bookstore. Wrong. For the first time, I genuinely smiled. Jingchuan, you announced the correct answer yourself. Jingchuan's entire aura shifted abruptly, his supernatural pressure directly crushing Baiyu, sending her tumbling to the ground. No, I remembered wrong. Was it on the playground, the library, or, Jing, give me a little more time, I'm sure I can remember. Baiyu groveled under the pressure, begging for mercy, but Jing Chuan had already averted his gaze, staring blankly at the sky. Under the pale moonlight, a tear of blood slid from the corner of his eye. Yes, it was my mistake, he murmured to himself. The real Xiaoye has long been gone. Yet I was completely fooled by this impostor. Ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I breathed a sigh of relief. It's fine, as long as Jingchuan can correct his mistakes. There's still a chance to make it right. Before I could finish speaking, Jingchuan had already shaken his head to interrupt. We can't keep making the same mistakes. A world without Yaya is not one I should live in alone. He closed his eyes and, without hesitation, plunged the dagger into his heart. As he fell, the barrage of bullets shattered like a torn canvas, as expected of the Yandra loyal dog pure love male lead, made me waste my effort for nothing. I held back my anger, got up, and went to finish him off myself. Bai Yu frantically retreated in terror. Seeing no way out, she resorted to hysterical screaming, Gun Yen, I know your secret, let me go, and I'll never tell Qing Yen. I paused in my steps, let out a scornful laugh, and continued to advance. Idiot. You know I'm mentally ill and still dare to provoke me. Aren't you afraid that Qing Yen will look down on you if he finds out? During those 3 years in high school, when you were isolated by the whole school, bullied, and forced to drink toilet water, do you really not care if he finds out? I shook my head and said calmly, you're wrong again. I'm not afraid that he would look down on me. So, do you have any last words? I tightly gripped Bai Yu's hair, and the dagger accurately pierced her heart. Watching her convulsing body, I slowly spoke. I'm not afraid that Qing Yen would look down on me if he found out. I just don't want him to be sad for me. The barrage of comments on the retina suddenly collapsed, overlapping with those terrifying images in memory, the dark corners of the orphanage, the evasive gazes of other classmates, the endless self-talk. I'm having another episode. I instinctively reached for the medicine bottle in my pocket, but found nothing. Only then did I remember that while chasing Jingchuan earlier, the last bottle had fallen to the ground, and I was too anxious to find Qing Yen to bother picking it up. Forget it, it's time to say goodbye. I took one last look at Qing Yen and Xiaomi in the distance, but my vision was blurred by a crimson haze, and I couldn't see anything clearly. That figure who never left my side since our days in the orphanage, the one who gave me warmth during my darkest times, in the end. I still have to say goodbye to him. Sheathing the dagger, I turned and walked into the darkness. Gun Yen, you come back here. Qing Yan's voice was weak but firm. I can't stand up right now. Don't force me to crawl after you. I froze all over, but just waved my hand, not daring to look back. It's no use, Qing Yen. There's only one bottle of medicine left in the settlement area. I'll go completely insane sooner or later. Let me leave quietly. You were the only light in my darkest days at the orphanage. Back then, aside from taking medicine every day, I couldn't even speak. It was you who slowly pulled me out of my autistic world, so I can't let you watch me fall back into the darkness. But he insisted, shouting, have you forgotten our promise? Since we were kids, I've always been the one by your side when you had an episode. This time is no different. I continued walking, ignoring his words. Suddenly, the world before my eyes began to clear, and the hallucinations that had haunted me for years started to fade away. Don't go, Sister Nian, a childish voice called out. Turning around, I saw that Xiaomi had stood up at some point. Under the moonlight, her long, loose hair moved as if stirred by an unseen wind, making her look like a little ghost. Wiping her tears, she shouted, I told you we're family. I'm an ultra-rare healing ability user. The once chaotic barrage of comments receded like a tide, and new text gradually emerged. New book check-in. This is a heartwarming story about rebuilding a home amidst disaster. Who is the main character? I think, Gun Yen and Qing Yen, childhood sweethearts saving each other. It's just too touching to hold back tears. Agreed. But everyone who strives to live on is the protagonist of their own story. Exactly. This is actually an ensemble cast. Everyone who strives to grow toward goodness is a protagonist. Xiaomi healed Qing Yan's wounds, and the three of us sat side by side on the ruins, gazing at the night sky. Nianjia, Xiaomi suddenly asked, do you think the apocalypse would end if we killed the protagonist? I shook my head as I gazed at the starry sky. Probably not, but I turned to look at Qing Yan's gentle profile and smiled. At least this world would become a better place. Because the ones who truly belong here are with us, working hard together. Qing Yan suddenly elbowed me. After knowing each other for so many years, can you stop being so overly sentimental? If you have another episode, you're not allowed to run off alone, or I'll lock you in a dark room. I chuckled and gently held his hand. Can you stay with me when I lock it? The night breeze scattered the clouds, and the moonlight fell upon us. The darkness of the orphanage in those years, the torment of illusions, the despair of being alone, all vanished with the wind. A future with Qing Yan by my side will surely be very warm. After all, from childhood to adulthood, we have always been each other's light.